Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Demystify Selling with Microsoft. And I'm very excited for my guest today, who's joining us from Romania. And I know it's later in the day. So, Olana Tetralek, thank you for joining.
Thank you very much for having me, Rob.
Yeah, I'm very excited for our discussion. And you and I had a chance to speak before we hit the record button this morning or this evening in your case. And, we really wanted, we resonated around the fact of why are the fundamentals so important in partnering with Microsoft, and I would love to go in and answer that question with you. But before we do that, maybe one you could take a moment and share with the audience your current role, which, as I understand it, is the EMEA lead for the Incubate and Launch team. So maybe you could just take a minute and introduce our audience to what that role is and sort of the coverage that your team provides. I think that would help people really understand today's episode.
Thank you so much, Rob. And yes, for sure, I've been with the IT industry for 25 years and with Microsoft for about 18 years. So a lot of my maturity in the business has happened with this organization that I'm part of. And if we are looking where we were like 18 years ago or 20 years ago in terms of companies developing software and where these companies are today and how agile is the rhythm at which newborn appear on the radar, like companies that did not exist 2 years ago, now they're building the world's most powerful large language models. So if you acknowledge the speed at which history is transforming, I would say that what happens today has little to no connection with what happened 10 years ago. So all the transformation that I have been observing in these 25 years and lately in the past 3-4 years since AI has started to really ramp up, I think it just showcases the big need for partnership and for serving these newborn companies and meet them where they are. So not treat them with the same kind of treatment that can be applied to partnerships that have 20, 30 years longevity, but just tailor our pitch and messages and type of support for these new companies. And this is what myself and my team are doing today for those, let's call them emerging high growth disruptors that exist in the market, the digital natives. And we serve them, we accompany other resources and programs that Microsoft brings into the game to support these companies. And we just make them easier navigate to the Microsoft ecosystem, getting our sellers to introduce them in front of our customers, co-sell. A lot of your sessions are about how to successfully co-sell with Microsoft. We are one arm that is doing that kind of process. So our intention is to get the momentum going, to get the success with the first couple of wins. Of course, Azure Marketplace is our favorite platform for our companies to transact their innovation. And yeah, here is where we are. So I'm leading the EMEA Incubate and Launch team, and we are very passionate about digital native success.
I love that. And I love the concept of the digital native because traditionally in the Microsoft ecosystem, you might think of, say, a systems integrator or a training partner or a CSP partner. But really, to your point, this whole new sort of world of partners is being introduced to the Microsoft ecosystem, which is no easy feat. I mean, there is so much to consume. And so, if I'm hearing you right, it's really your team's mission to guide these digital natives, these sort of disruptors on the journey of partnering with Microsoft. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And also, I have to admit that we learn a lot from these companies. Like you would
Mhm.
not imagine that it's bidirectional. The communication and the partnership with these companies is not like we, as Microsoft, we are the big old man, the big old wise man, with a success recipe for absolutely anything. We just learn a lot, and a lot of the innovation that Microsoft brings into the market is because these new companies started to innovate themselves. And I think the North Star is on how we build successful partnerships on three pillars. One is how we successfully co innovate, how we successfully co GTM, and how we successfully co sell.
I love that. The innovate, the GTM, and the co-sell. I mean, those are really the three core pillars of moving forward. So, along those lines, what are some of the challenges that you see partners faced with today in this digital native space?
Well, partners are challenges for sure. Our partners are facing are a lot at all levels possible that you can imagine. First of all, they need to eat while they transform. Of course, the VC funding is providing some fuel into the system, but these companies need also to start producing with their innovation. They
Yeah.
have to innovate better and faster than anyone else. They have to be successful at attracting new customers, creating a brand, I repeat, that did not exist 1 year ago, maybe. So that's a very strong mission. Point number three is how they manage to successfully comply with the rules and regulation of the markets they are wanting to penetrate. Because especially imagine you're a company that is selling an HR platform, software as a service, but you want to sell into UK, you want to sell to US, Canada, and European Union. For sure, there is a different set of regulation that you need to comply with. So how do you incorporate that in a very fast, agile platform that you're trying to particularize for each of these markets? Point number four is security. So imagine that the intensity of attacks, even imagine password attacks has increased like 5 times in 1 year from 2023 to 2024. So just if you consider the magnitude of cybersecurity requirements that need to be embedded in every platform that you present to the market, the effort is huge. Like secure by design is like something totally not negotiable. Security by design and by default, it has to be the underlying asset of each platform that any ISV or any digital native is proposing to the market. And point number five, if you're going to go into the Gen AI, how are you going to be listening to the principles and fundamentals of the responsible AI? And Microsoft is very proud to be the ambassador for these principles, because the AI has not only to be the cheapest price per token, it doesn't have to be the most or the fastest only large language model, but at the same time needs to respect the principles of fairness. It has to be safe, it has to be reliable, it has to be transparent, it has to be accountable. Like if you're a platform for healthcare and diagnostics is being in place powered by AI, who is keeping the accountability for the prescribed medicine afterwards? So these are the principles that have to be embedded in each platform that our digital natives are proposing to the market. And of course, you have the B2Bs and you have the B2B2Cs and you have the B2B2Cs. So there are many layers, right? If you're talking about Spotify platform addressing a certain audience, Booking, but then you're talking about platforms like the ones that are going into the conversational AI, agentic AI, or if you're going to discuss core banking as a service, for sure, very different flavors of technology and platforms.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that a lot of the digital natives that you're seeing today that are sort of up and coming are really paying a lot of attention to this AI space, and that what you talked about becomes so critical in those discussions. Not only the security, but to your point, delivering fair, ethical AI and accountable AI. So, do you see that a lot of the partners you're working with today are leveraging AI as part of their solution? Is that sort of becoming a norm for you and your team?
I would not say necessarily a norm. I would say it's more of a tendency, like a trend we are observing into the ecosystem, because AI has become a key differentiator between what makes a solution good, very good, or great. Like beating competition, you cannot come up with a solution that anyone has created before. You have to give it a new flavor, right?
Hmm.
So, if you're considering solutions that say, hey, our platform in Gen AI has zero hallucinations, like that's a differentiator versus any other player in the retail space, right? Because you don't want AI to hallucinate and trigger the wrong results by all means. So it's a different way to look at it. And also, I would say that Gen AI is for sure is a very wide concept, but you are thinking that majority of the companies that are innovating are using various shades of AI. Some of them may be using only the machine learning, others may be using the knowledge mining, others may use the RAG. So it's not like, all has to be like in a full restaurant menu, has to be
Yeah.
in one place, but it can have various combinations, and especially if you take a step back, we're considering that the ISVs are those that are creating the IP with more than 50% replicable IP, right? But there are many custom companies that are creating custom code, custom platform, low to no code platforms that are also bringing uh, specific AI workloads that are addressing various industry needs, right? Because if you're going to healthcare or FSI, retail, manufacturing, oil and gas, for sure, the differences and the specifics of each industry also influence what are the technologies that are being used. Some of the LLMs may be faster or triggering or better trained for certain industries. Some
Mhm.
large language models may be best fit for a certain market or from the regulatory standpoint, right? So all these are influencing a lot what the partners are bringing to their technology.
I love that. I love that, and it's really to your point. It's bringing the right flavor of artificial intelligence if that's the right thing to solve that problem. So I love how you phrased that and you framed that. So thank you for that. And I'd love to, if we could, is change gears a little bit and look at it from what value does the digital native bring to the Microsoft field? So when you're working with the digital natives and these innovators and disruptors, how do you see them helping the Microsoft field and your team and the sales teams around the globe? I'd love to get your feedback on that.
So first of all, on the innovation side of things, they are bringing to our ecosystem things that never existed before.
Yeah.
So I think the innovation is like foundational for our learning process from the digital natives. The second point, they are reaching out new customers, new industries with new scenarios or workloads we never knew existed. So our ecosystem is learning a lot and is richer and richer day by day by the innovation and the account penetration, customer acquisition that our digital natives are doing. And from point number three, they are operating in a much more agile, if I would have to paraphrase the growth mindset principles, fail fast, learning, not being afraid of experimenting new things. So this is the kind of mindset that we are observing. Um, they are even their planning ways or their ways of doing the planning is slightly different from what we have observed with the more traditional or grounded ISVs. Very much result oriented, very fast movers. So imagine you're delivering an enablement session to a team of sellers within a digital native, and you're getting the first call in the very next day, right? So
Right.
they don't have to overplan, overthink. They just see the opportunity. They want to monetize. They want to move fast, get the learning, replicate, scale.
I love that. I love that. And you make such a great point around the fact that some of these companies didn't even exist a couple of years ago. And today they're solving brand new problems that customers are facing because of the pace of innovation. So I imagine for the Microsoft field team, that's a ton of value to be able to have these companies, and partner with these companies to solve these problems almost in real time, as you're saying, is that they're seeing the problem, they're innovating excuse me, in real time, and so that's got to be a big part of the value proposition that the Microsoft Field team sees. So, would you agree with that?
I would agree, and it's very inspiring. Now, our job as an organization and our responsibility is how do we make things easier? Like what is the burden we lift from the shoulders of these newcomers into the game? How do we support them? And this is why Azure Marketplace, MPO programs, and I know you've been delivering fabulous sessions with my colleagues on these ones, but still they remain as valid as today as they were 6 months ago or 2 years ago, because whenever you're bringing these digital natives to transact on Azure Marketplace, we are simplifying their lives. We are transacting in countries where they have no headquarters, no subsidiaries, no representation, no legal presence. We are allowing them to transact in coins that are basically spread throughout the world. We are taking the financial risk off their shoulders and we allow them to focus on their business. And at the same time, in countries like US, UK, Canada, where we have the multi-party private offer in place, we allow them to transact through our channels. So we are expanding their ecosystem and allowing them to access new channels and new layers of customer acquisitions. All of this without having to sign additional agreements, leveraging the Azure commitments that those enterprise or corporate customers have signed with Microsoft, so they don't have to renegotiate additional budgets or time spent, making sure that those customers are just getting the ISV solutions on the same Azure invoice as they're getting their first party Azure services. So this is in terms of processes and support and programs. This is what we can do for these digital natives. Of course, we ask a lot of them. We need them to become Azure Marketplace transactable ready, IPCOSL ready. So there are a couple of checkboxes they need to meet, but this is why our team is here to support them and make sure that their journey is faster and efficient. And of course, uh, we can only dream that big in terms of scaling through the Microsoft resources. Raising on the shoulders of the giant for sure is pivotal to many digital native success.
Yeah, I feel like everybody should just pause here and rewind for about 2 minutes because when I think that you just laid out, the plan that every digital native, every newcomer to the Microsoft ecosystem should understand. And so I love how you did that. I love how you framed it. And I think, the one thing that people should take away is the power of marketplace, the leverage and the scale that marketplace can bring to these digital natives is, I mean, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. To your point, you can be transacting in countries you have no presence in. You had never planned or had any infrastructure there. So I think that's so powerful. And maybe you could recap because I think you touched on a little bit, but how does your team help to take these digital natives on this journey? Like, what's sort of a traditional or a framework of an engagement that a digital native could expect or could feel like that's what they're gonna get working with your team? Maybe you could walk us through that again.
In a very interesting way, the exercise is kind of a reverse engineering because we don't start with the process, we start with the outcome. Like, what's the North Star for that partner? Like, what are the key customers they want to succeed with in each of these regions? And then, of course, we can check these customers, how proficient are they with Azure? What is their appetite for consuming Azure? What is their appetite for consuming technology from Azure Marketplace? And if the propensity shows right, then the digital native knows that Azure Marketplace, Azure Deployment, Software as a Service, Azure Marketplace Transactable Listing are the secret sauce ingredients that they need to meet. So we don't start, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do that, because this is sounding like very artificial and not taking into consideration what actually that partner wants. And we always need to remember that partners are there to serve their own businesses, not to serve us as Microsoft. So once you acknowledge that, you understand that you need to start with the other side of the rope, with the end game. What's the end game for that partner? And once you understand the end game, like, what do you need to do? Like, for instance, you want to lower your blood pressure. Like, if I come to you and tell you need to exercise daily, probably you'll send me away. But if you start with lowering your blood pressure, and I'm not talking about you, Rob, you have the perfect blood pressure, but just as starting with the end game, like, what's the North Star? What do we want to achieve? What do we want that partner to be in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now? Do they want to have IPO? Is a strategic partnership with Microsoft going to be increasing their success chances with an IPO? Like, all these conversations need to take place in order to generate the need of box checking and not start with box checking first.
I love that. And I love that. So really what you're saying is that you and your team, your job is to partner with that digital native or that disruptor and really to help them get to their North Star, help them achieve the goals they've set for their business. And so you don't look at it as, like you said, just checking a bunch of boxes. It's really partnering together to go on a journey together where it's mutually beneficial for both the customer, for the partner, and for Microsoft. At the end of the day, that's what I heard from what someone working with your team could expect. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it sounds about right, and it has a very strong foundation, which is called trust. And you cannot build that in 1 week, but for sure you can build that reliable platform of trust in a couple of months, showcasing that we care as an organization and at individual level for the success of our digital natives. And that is the mindset that is moving the mountains.
I love that, Awana. This conversation has been fascinating and I have learned a ton. So I wanted to thank you for that. And, if someone wants to reach out to you, is LinkedIn a good place to do that?
It's a great place to do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Awana, I want to thank you again for your time today and for all the information you shared. And for those watching, I encourage you to go back and catch this episode. There is so much good stuff packed in here in under 20 minutes. So, Awana, thank you again. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to us chatting again soon.
Thank you so much, Rob. It was a